Hey, Truth Seekers, welcome back. Zach here. It is November 28th. Yesterday, November 27th, the big story was a shooting at Planned Parenthood in Colorado Springs, Colorado. If you missed my work yesterday, I put out 2 videos. Since making these videos, they've released the name of the shooter and the deceased police officer. In this video, I want to cover those details and more. If you're new here, please understand that I talk about numerology and gematria, the practice of coding numbers into words. The reason I talk about these things is because I discovered more than 2 years ago that these stories are scripted using these principles, and the mainstream media is actively creating location, characters, and headlines based on the numbers. A perfect example is what's on the front page of CNN right now. Why did gunmen do it? In our gematria calculator, we find that why did gunmen do it sums to 83, just like Colorado in simple English gematria. Colorado the small way sums to 38, and that is interesting because Colorado is the 38th state. As I have shown in other videos, the 50 states are all contrived by the numbers. They all have number pairings that make sense for their numerological placement. So it's not just unique to Colorado. It's not an anomaly. It's the way it's been done. This numerology and this gematria is incredibly important to the Freemasons who founded this nation. And for whatever reason, we the people have been kept in the dark about this skill. Probably because if we were aware of it, we'd see how it's used in the tyranny waged over us so often, which includes propaganda in the media meant to scare people that's used for agenda that goes against the people of the nation. So again, check out my 2 videos prior. This third video will be additional information. Let's get into it right now. This story is in Colorado Springs, and remember, Colorado Springs has the gematria of 77. The federal government's on the 77th meridian, known as the American meridian. The federal government for months has been debating legislation on Planned Parenthood and gun control. This story here intertwines both narratives, Planned Parenthood, gun control. It's also another story of a dead police officer. Notice how police officer has gematria that fits Colorado Springs. Police a 33 word, officer a 44 word. And in today's story, the officer who's killed is 44 years old. A common theme. In the last year, I've decoded several police officer killings where they were 44 years old. Remember, the word officer equals 44, and worse yet, the word kill in simple English gematria equals 44. 44, a number often found around death. There's more here, though, Truth Seeker. Notice his name is Garrett. Garrett has gematria of 33, like the word police. His last name is Swasey. Because it has 2 S's, there are S exceptions here. The name can equal 20, Pythagorean, 29 with the capital S exception, and 38 with the double S exception. Again, Colorado equals 38. The shooting is supposedly began at 11:38 in the afternoon. The name Garrett Swasey in Pythagorean gematria sums to 53. The date this happened on, November 27th, 15, has a numerology of 53. Remember, the word religion equals 53. The way they code these stories with numbers seems to me to be a religious or spiritual practice. Garrett Swasey with the capital S exception also sums to 62, like the word officer. Let me remind you that the word Mason equals 62 on the calendar. March 3rd, 3-3 is the 62nd day of the year. 33 and 62. Numbers important to the Masons. The woman that they used all day as a witness, supposedly the CEO of Planned Parenthood of the Rocky Mountains, the Colorado division, her name is interesting. Vicky Cohen's sums to 133. In yesterday's video in part 1, we talked about how this number was coded in. Colorado Springs, Colorado has the gematria of 133. Government equals 133. All of these stories are propaganda that serve the federal government. White House equals 133. Makes me wonder if this Vicky Cohen's, if she has any other purpose for Planned Parenthood than her role in this hoax. This could have been what it was all about for Vicky Cohen's. So then they gave us the name of the shooter. They said the shooter was named Robert Louis Deere. Notice a three-part name, something that they love to do for shooters. And they said he was age 59. And right away that stood out because the kill number in simple English gematria is 44, like the officer's age. And in Jewish gematria, it's 59. So this 59-year-old man supposedly killed the 44-year-old officer. We see these kind of pairings again and again in these made-for-TV shooting hoaxes. Worse yet, the name Robert has gematria of 33, just like Garrett. In yesterday's video, in part 2, when I closed out, I said, expect that the names, once they're released, will have the same numbers encoded, the ones we always talk about, and the one that comes up the most is 33. Robert Louis Deere has gematria of 75 and 84. Remember, United States of America equals 84. Also, Truth Seeker, the drill, the active shooter drill for Colorado Springs began late September 13th, closed out September 14th when it was made mainstream information. From September 13th to yesterday, November 27th, was a span of 75 days, just like the number coded into his name. Probably not a coincidence. The name Robert Louis Deere, the big way, sums to 174, so does the phrase New World Order. Robert Deere equals 106 prophecy. I'm telling you, Truth Seeker, I did a recent video on how gun control was established in the UK. I showed how it was done with shootings in the 80s and 90s, coded by the numbers, that led up to legislation with the same coded numbers. The same thing is going to happen here in the United States. They're going to change the laws on what kind of guns are legal and who can have them. That's where we're going to. I don't see them doing a gun grab, though. Too many people, too many guns. But I do see them changing gun laws, no doubt. New World Order agenda. Robert Louis Deere. It's all coded in the names. Here's this morning, CNN's first headline when I woke up. He was aiming at my head. This headline has a gematria of 96, probably the number that they code most into their headlines at CNN, a very Masonic network on the 33rd parallel. The word Freemason equals 96. He was aiming at my head. Some more interesting things in this story, Truth Seeker. I have shown more than 100 times how when officers are killed, they love to code in the numbers 46 and 64. If you take this police officer and report his name as Officer Swasey, that has gematria of 64. 64 and 46 show up so often with dead police officers. Very redundant. The picture of Robert Louis Deere. Notice how they make his hair look messy, the beard wild, the eyes wide open. This is all part of the hoax. This is how it's staged. This is part of the subliminals. You know, the mainstream person who doesn't catch on to how they're being lied to, they go, whoa, look, this guy has the crazy eyes too. You know, they're so deceived by these simple tactics. Supposedly, this person in the parking lot, Ozzy Lacano, a very odd name. So often the witnesses have these odd names. Gematria of 48, the word propaganda equals 48, hoax equals 48, another number that shows up a lot. He describes him as having a steely gaze, which has gematria of 44 and 53. Remember the date, November 27th, 15 has numerology of 53, 44 the kill number. This is the story of a killer. Stories are all coded, Truth Seeker. These numbers are so important to them. Here's another witness from the story, Denise Speller. Supposedly, Denise Speller witnessed 10 gunshots. She probably referred to it as the long gun. The phrasing they love to use in these hoaxes. What's a long gun? I'm used to rifle. Anyhow, look at her name, Denise Speller. Denise has the coding of 38, like Colorado. Speller, the coding of 33, number of the hoax, with the X exception 42, like Freemason the Spallway. They tell us that the 44-year-old ICE officer was an ice dancing champion. He worked at the University of Colorado in Colorado Springs. And we get this last quote from the fire chief named Christopher Riley. Riley, another 33 name. Not a coincidence, truth seeker. These people are all Masons. They're the guys in the clique in Colorado Springs. They're the women in the clique. They're the ones willing to sell out the people with these lies. They must think that their lying is for a good purpose. So I want to go a little bit deeper on the police officer who died and showed the greater coding behind him. Notice this article from ABC is posted at 6:46. I don't think that's a coincidence because 64 and 46 are the most heavily coded numbers in police officer shootings next to 33. They point out that he was an officer at University of Colorado. Anybody who's ever been to college knows that campus police are always the biggest assholes. That is a fact. But look at this, truth seeker. University of Colorado has gematria of 113. Another number they love to code in the hoaxes. Yesterday they reported the shooting began at 11:30, and I talked about this. 113, so often coded into the hoaxes. Mainstream equals 113. Dishonest equals 113. Green screen equals 113. Baba Kama 113a says a Jew can circumvent a Gentile by lying to them. Of course, it is Zionist Jews who control the media, control the police. The campus abbreviation UCCS generates the gematria of 46, which they seem to always have to code into this story. Or the stories of dead officers. Officer Swasey, 6446. So systematic. Always showing up. Here's this spokesperson, Chancellor Pam Shockley from the university. Somebody with name gematria of 74. Number we talked about in part 1 and part 2. The word Masonic is 74, another number that shows up a lot. Shooting began at 11:38, Colorado, the 38th state with the 38 gematria. Also, truth seeker, get this. This is the shooter from October 31st, where Catherine Buckley, the police spokeswoman, was also the spokesperson for this. The shooter in that one was a 33-year-old named Noah Harpham. And get this, 33 is bad enough, but the name Noah has the 38 coding. The name Harpham has the 38 coding. Noah Harpham equals 58. Just like the shooter in Aurora, Colorado, his name's summed to 58. All the theater shootings in the time of Obama had 58 coded into them, and that's curious because Ford's Theater, where Lincoln was assassinated, has gematria 58, which Obama reopened when he first became president. Freemasonry equals 58. Another number we see a lot, and a number with some serious history, connecting to the Freemasons. But again, this one's from October 31st. This was the shooter then. The shooter yesterday, Robert Louis Deere. So this is the message, truth seeker. If people deny this, if you're on the fence, just watch my other videos. I've been decoding this for 2 years straight. They continue to do it with these same tired principles. Until next time.